one of our state FFA officers, and they asked, how can youth involvement help tell the story of agriculture?
I guess you handed it to me first, so I get it then. I think it's very important to make sure that we're all involved in telling the positive story of agriculture. And I get around to many of the FFA events and see the outstanding job that you do in leadership. And I would say it'd be taking those leadership skills that you're learning and getting out to the community, into the community. Like, you do a very good job with that now, but encourage doing that not just at the level with your peers in schools, but at other community events, to get out and tell the positive story of what's happening. You do such a, like I say, you do such a great job. I see it. But how you could expand on that is to get into other civic organizations. I see a lot of things when you see the Rotary clubs and the Kiwanis that have a great outreach. And it comes to mind because a friend of mine from Snyder County, Charlie Benner, a farmer, retired, and some people in the room might know Charlie. He talked to the legal women voters about agriculture and talked about electric vehicles, and they had electric milk trucks back in the early 1900s. So he said electric vehicles aren't a new thing, but he just got in and talked about agriculture to people that normally wouldn't hear that information. So I would say do the great job you're doing in the spirit that you have now, which is with your peers and in school organizations, but maybe expand that to Kiwanis and some Rotary and some of the other organizations in our communities that don't get that positive story, to people that normally don't hear about agriculture. And I think that would be a great help as far as getting the message out to people.
Just real quick, I would say as well how important it is to provide information and education of your friends. Most of my friends don't understand what the agricultural industry and what farming is about, right? I mean, last year, I spent a lot of time looking at fields and fields of cabbage, dead from the floods, pumpkins, radishes. People don't understand that is why we have the sort of agriculture and farm initiatives and programs and safety nets and insurances that we do. So the more that people understand it, write op-eds on some of the issues facing food, which is largely there's nothing more important, right? And the plight of the dairy. If we don't support our dairy industry, it's going to go away. Much of it already is. So I would just encourage young people to the best of your ability to spread that word and make people as aware as possible.
I hesitate to be redundant because I think a lot of what I will say is very similar to what Representative Buzier and Representative Keller said, but I guess I want to emphasize some aspects of what they both said. Number one is no one can reach your generation like you can. No one can reach the generation younger than you can. Every person up here is a member of Congress. I'm the oldest by far. I'm decades older than anybody at this table, I think. But even these young members of Congress on some days won't be able to connect with young people on these issues for lots of different reasons. Sometimes the impediment is we're an elected official. Sometimes that alone is an impediment. Sometimes the fact that you can be verifiers or validators in ways that we can't should be reason alone for you to keep going. You've already dedicated a part of your life to doing this. The other thing I would say is that your generation has tools and really mechanics that we didn't have. We have now, but you tend to utilize them better than we do. Technology, social media, ways to aggregate around an issue in a fashion that wasn't available even a few years ago. That's another pathway to telling a story about agriculture that we won't do as well as you. And I think finally, the fact that you can tell a positive story about the impact on your life, the impact that led to the inspiration that you're dedicating part of your life to this work, and maybe the rest of your life to it. Because a lot of what we have to confront as legislators or policymakers, frankly, on a lot of days, it's been difficult and bad news. Representative Musier mentioned dairy. I don't know of a group of Americans that have endured more heartache and hardship and suffering than dairy farmers. They've had a really rough road, and try as we might on policy changes one after another, year after year, it's been horribly difficult. That story has to be told because it's the reality for a lot of communities. But you can tell a different story. You can tell a story about what's not only going right and what is positive about agriculture, but what your generation can do to benefit from it as a future endeavor. And I'll tell you, when I consider just walking through the farm show, and you consider the impact of research and the dynamism of the agriculture economy, it's boundless, and it's right here in Pennsylvania. So you're the best messengers to tell that story, not just about why you're engaged and why you want to stay engaged, but why other people should be engaged. Representative Keller talked about farmers having that range of skills. It was a very good point to make. You can engage people your age who say, well, I'm not into agriculture, I'm into science. Well, guess what? They can be part of agriculture. I'm into technology, or I do business, or whatever field or endeavor. You're the best messengers to engage them on the breadth and the scope and the reach of agriculture. So keep going.
I think this is an important topic that we all need to address. Is that a question from you, Michael Riggs? No?
Not me.
I'm going to give a shout out for this young man from Adams County from Gettysburg. Because Michael and I had an opportunity to talk, and I think that 4-H and FFA, I think there's an important element that you have the opportunity to do. As the senator said, through social media. But imagine the opportunities that you're having with this year of service. Imagine the connections that you can make. And Michael and I had this discussion. Bring your issues forward. And I'll take a risk here, but I'll speak for everyone at the table. Reach out to us. Let us know what's important. We came here today to listen to you, to hear what your issues are, but make those connections today. And with the theme of today, imagine the opportunities. Imagine that degree from Penn State, Michael, that you're going to obtain, and imagine where you're going to be in 4 years, 10 years from now. And we congratulate you. We congratulate you as legislators, and we came here to listen to you. Thank you.
Just add a sort of a capstone. All sort of great points. A couple of things that I would add. One is to celebrate the diversity of this industry. Right? I think just as an industry, I look at it all the time, and we do a great job. You know, the mushroom growers talk to mushroom, and dairy talks to dairy, and Christmas to trees. But this is the crosscut of the farm show, and I think just talking about sort of what is agriculture in the state, but also recognizing it may look like something other than what we're used to having it look like, right? We've seen it in urban centers and people who are first generation. I think that's the great story. It's an industry that can attract people. It does attract people, allows them to do things while they're pursuing other professions, which is difficult to do. I can't do that in medicine. I can't do that in law. I can do that in agriculture. That's a great story, right? Two is, if you look at the last census, the number of women in the business, decision makers, from census to census in 10 years, amazing growth in women as primary decision makers in ag. I look at the 4-H Council. I look at the FFA members, right? The number of women. And final is, I think we have a younger generation that is socially minded. And I watch it on the sustainability, I watch it on climate. And every time we talk about hunger, agriculture is an antidote to hunger. It's an antidote to hunger. And how we present that as an industry, how do we take ownership of that as an industry, I think is really an important part of the story that only we can tell. But we have to own that, right? And talk about how that really fixes a problem of hunger in PA and our nation. So that's a great question. Thank you.